Welcome everyone. Today we'll explore the essentials of functions and vectors in R, which are foundational to programming and data analysis within this powerful language. Okay, R is a functional language as its heart, meaning functions are primary building blocks of our code. Functions in R are not just about using what's available, but also creating our own to streamline our workflow. For example, in R, functions are like canned scripts, which allow us to execute code blocks. They come in predefined forms, like for instance, the function sum and brackets, which can call directly in the console. Here we have an example of function, yes, the C function, the min function, and the print function. So making a stop here and use the yellow code. Okay, if you carry on, it's because you have been using this yellow code in your R scripts. Okay, so each function can take arguments which may have default values. We can override these defaults by passing out our own arguments, which give us greater flexibility. For instance, the mean function can be used to calculate the average of a set of numbers. Let's look at a simple example here on your screen when we call sum in between brackets 3, 4. We are using the sum function with 3 and 4 as arguments. The function returns their sum, which is a fundamental operation if in any analysis. Specifying arguments is key. We can pass arguments by order or by explicitly naming them, which is particularly useful when a function has many optional arguments. So here there is an example of specifying an argument. Uh, we are going to specify here the na.rm argument in the main function. So here we are going to use numbers with na, yes, and we are going to use the arrow to name that object, numbers with na, and in between the brackets you will see the arguments, the values of that vector. We can use the average, as you can see, the average using the function mean, and we can use as well this object that we have created in the previous line, and we are going to say na_rm equal true, meaning that we will not take that, meaning that we are going to use or like not use the or we are going to use the na values. Na values are non-existing values or missing values. Finally, we use here the function print of average. Recall that here we have created the object average. Please stop here and run this code in your R scripts in RStudio. Okay, let's move forward. Now let's shift to discussing vectors. Vectors are the simplest type of data structure in R. Here we'll perform a simple operation, summing the elements of a vector. So you have here in yellow one script that you can use in your script. Pause here and use this summing of vectors. Let's also pause here for a live demonstration. If you use the code in yellow, we will use R to call both the sum function and the square root function. This is the square root of a number, showcasing how these operations are performed on vectors and individual numbers. Please stop here and use the yellow code. Okay, after pausing, then we will be able to discuss vectors. Moving forward, vectors are not just for numbers. We can have character vectors, logical vectors, and more. They are homogeneous, meaning all elements must be of the same type. So that is the only rule for vectors. Vectors are most common and basic data in R. They are a sequence of elements of the same type and are fundamental to performing any kind of analysis in R. Vector type determines the kinds of analysis you can do. They can assign a series of values to a vector with the C function. So this code will allow you to input um, arguments for a vector. Here we have an example of using that function C and how we use the arguments 2, 4, 6, and 8 in order to create a numeric vector. Following that, we add here in this example an element to the vector. So we add the number 10. And here you can see how we can create this object, or we reuse this object. This arrow means that we are creating an object with these arguments. So we will create a vector in this way. Finally, we can print uh, um, the name my vector, the object that we created, on your consoles if you want. So let's use as well this in your R scripts. Let's make a pause here. Vectors come in different types. For example, numeric vectors for decimals, integer vectors for whole numbers, character vectors for text, and logical vectors for true or false values. Here in yellow, we have an example of different vector types. So you can see that here we have a numeric vector, a character vector, a logical vector, and finally we print them all. Right. Besides vectors, R has other data structures like lists, matrices, data frames, factors, and arrays. Each has its unique properties and is suitable for different types of data and analysis. So here we have examples for the four first other data structures. Arrays are useful, but I think they are a bit more complex. They can keep two matrices if you want, and we are not going to use them in this course. Here in yellow, we have examples of creating a list containing a string, a numeric vector, and a matrix. You can see that list can contain several objects. Here we have an example of creating a matrix of 2 rows and 3 columns. Matrices are numeric. Finally, we have here, well, in the next slide, we have an example of creating a data frame in which we input um, um, an ID, a name, and a age. So we are creating like a table with different type of information. We have as well factors. We are in this example we are creating a factor with different levels. Levels are like characteristics or factors. Factors are characteristics. Here we are using gender, yes, male, female, female, male as factors, yes. So we created this gender, and using the function factor, we will create these two type of genders. We can further print the gender to see the results, and we can also print the levels of the factor if you want. So both of them are different. Please uh, carry on pausing here, and you can create this data frame and this factor with three levels. If you have time, go back in this video and create the other two. But I think data frames are one of the most used ways of data structures that we are going to use in this course. Okay, so if you are hearing this, is because you already run this script in your R script in RStudio, and here we have a like a final post. So yes, a final post to create a numeric vector, yes, and adding an element to the vector numbers. So please perform this task in your RStudio scripts. To conclude, we have taken a journey through the essentials of functions and vectors in R. We discussed how to define and use functions and create and manipulate vectors, and touched upon the diverse data structures available in R. Thank you very much.